Scene Daddy Interviews.
Welcome everyone to Scene Daddy Interviews. My name is Ian, and this is very, very cool. On the phone right now, I have Micah from Oh Sleeper. Micah, how are you doing, man?
Yeah, doing good, man. Thanks for having me. Stoked to be here.
Absolutely, man. Now, we talked off air for a little bit, and I had completely forgotten that your tour has already started, so you're actually at the venue right now. Do you want to tell, everyone listening a little bit about this tour? It's a really stacked lineup. You've got Convictions, Famous Last Words, Empty. It's going to be a really great tour. How's it been so far?
Yeah, so far it's been great. I mean, this is our second show.
Yeah.
So, but all the other bands are very talented and eager and take themselves seriously, and so everyone's been really cool to work with so far. Like I said, we're only a day in, but
right.
Some of them we've already toured with before as well, so it's good to see familiar faces. And last night was Little Rock, and it was a great turnout. Lots of good feedback. Everyone got along, and everyone showed up on time today too. So far so good.
There you go. You are 2 for 2. That is great. So this is the first official tour since you guys have been officially back, right?
Yes. Well, like we've done little week-long runs here and there,
right.
Week-long runs or weekend runs or like a fest run or something like that here and there. But this is the first like big tour that we've done back, like straight up month-long run. And then this one actually runs directly into the Hawthorne Heights Emory run.
Right.
And that's another like 2.5 weeks. So leaving home for all of us, it was the first time we've left home for a month and a half. And gosh, I think like probably since Warped Tour 2013.
Yeah, that's insane. That is crazy.
Yeah.
But, I mean, now I forget a little bit. Obviously, Woven War have toured. So Shane's been out on tour. And then, you've got Zach with Noble. But I don't think Noble's really toured. Did Vile Ones tour as well?
Vile Ones has not toured.
Okay.
Noble has played some shows.
Yeah.
But hasn't done a tour. Woven War did tour.
Yes.
Pretty much right after Warped Tour. Woven War got together and just shot off like a rocket.
Right.
And they took off and toured full time, released 2 full-length albums, and they did overseas runs and everything like that. But even still, it's been a couple years since Shane's been out on a long run either, or 2. So
true.
Yeah. So it's just there's definitely some dusting off the cobwebs.
Sure. Yeah. Was there anything that you guys did, or even yourself specifically, to get ready for a tour like this going into, Hawthorne Heights and Emory as well, just so you were kind of back to fighting shape?
Like that's interesting. I personally, for the first time, because when we first started as a band, we were just road dogs. Like we just stayed out all the time. I think in 2 years we played 580 shows.
Wow.
That was just like one little snippet of a look into what we were doing, and we just stayed out, just tour after tour. We were never home for more than like a week or 2 before leaving for another month or so.
Right.
And so there was never any like, oh man, I got to get in shape for tour, or I need to like rehearse, because we were playing, we were rehearsing, quote unquote, every single day.
Exactly.
And then you've got something like this with me personally, building up to this and building up to the album and everything. It had been like, I don't know, like, whenever we first started playing shows after Warped Tour, it was like 3 years since I had even screamed or done anything like that. And
okay.
To be totally honest, I pretty much forgot how.
Oh, wow.
Because it was all muscle memory from the get-go. Like we signed, and as soon as we did, we just took off on our first US tour, and then signed to Solid State, then went overseas, and then just stayed gone. And so it was all just, I never really thought of what I was doing. And I had to like put method behind what I was doing for the first time. So I had to like learn how to scream again. And I would like listen to myself on recordings and like, how am I doing that? Like, what is that? You know? And,
Wow.
and I would, and so it was a journey. And then also, just getting back into like, you know, being able to do an hour-long set and not lose breath. There was a good amount of cardio going into getting ready for this tour and,
Yeah.
and all that. So yeah, there was certainly some serious prep work. We're also using a lot of new gear on this run. We've got an in-ear monitor rig that I've never used one before, and
wow.
So dialing all that stuff in and getting all these lights together and everything, and it's just it was a big buildup for sure. So when we pulled away with the trailer door shut and started driving to Little Rock yesterday, it was like, man, all right,
yeah,
here we go. Let's see how all this pays off.
Right. Is that nervousness? Is that excitement? Is it nervous? Is it nervous excitement? Like, how are you feeling when those trailer doors shut?
Oh, it's crazy. It's so much nerves. They're like, I feel like we're back to you know, some of our first tours,
right? But
it's already, all of those nerves are already starting to wear off like very quickly, and the grooves are all coming back, and yeah, so it's really just getting those. And I think any band would agree, like your first 2-3 shows on tour are always like where the waters are a little rocky.
Oh, sure.
And you just work out all the kinks and you find your groove, and then you're just gold.
Right. Yeah, that would definitely be the goal for sure. So let's go back just a second, because you brought up a very good point, something that I was going to ask you about as well. So with that time off, well, we'll say quote unquote time off, that hiatus point of Oh Sleeper, where then you mentioned you hadn't really screamed for about 3 years and you're trying to, you know, methodically get back into everything. How long did it really take you to do that? And then also, obviously you're screaming a lot in Vile Ones. So when Teeth came out, you know, last year, 2018, was there a difference in that type of scream compared to what you're doing with Oh Sleeper?
That's interesting. Actually, whenever I started writing with Vile Ones, and when Andreas and Randy and I were pulling that together, I was just having so much fun writing again, and I was just feeling really inspired and everything. And so I'm running with these, and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna start trying to track some demos for these to send to the guys to like see if they like what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And that's when I realized, I was like, wait a second, this sounds like crap. Like, what's wrong with me? And that's when I had to like, from when we started writing the Vile One stuff to when we actually recorded it and put it out. Yeah. There was a very long, there was about we wrote together for like a year and a half.
Oh, wow.
And I was the bottleneck on that big time.
Oh.
Because they were producing music very fast and sending it to me, and I had stuff written to it, but I just like, I had to figure out what the hell I was doing again.
Right.
And so that was kind of that was when I kind of threw myself through a boot camp thing. I was like, okay, I need to practice every single day. I need to I actually hit up asked a number of people what they did, and asked people through other people that I didn't have direct communication with what they did and everything.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of really good advice. Hearing from Spencer from Under Oath, he's
sure.
like, I practice vocals an hour a day every single day. And I was like, that makes sense, because you sound totally perfect.
Yeah.
And
right.
I've never seen you have a bad show. And and then some dudes who just blew up from our hometown Fort Worth, Fit for a King.
Oh yeah.
We're all contemporaries and friends. And I did the light show, one of their light shows, and Kirby and I were hanging out, and I was like, hey, And that was like right when I was like at like a super low point too.
Oh,
I was like, hey man, what do you do to get ready for a tour? Like, what are you like, what's your rehearsal thing? How do you do this? What do you do this?
yep.
And we talked and everything. And even like, Gage from, To Speak of Wolves, he's one of my best friends. He's my little brother. Even like pulled him aside and I was like, dude, so you're sounding really good. Like, what are you doing? And all of them were like, why are you asking me, man?
Right.
You sound great. I was like, well, I just don't know. I feel like I lost it. And they were like, what? And I was like, yeah, it was crazy. It was such a whirlwind when we started O Sleeper.
Yeah.
That like we started it. I was playing bass and screaming in this like pop rock band. We were kind of like the Used.
Sure. Yeah.
Then O Sleeper picked up. We recorded one song, and I was like, yeah, I can scream. And I just learned how to scream from driving around listening to like Every Time I Die in my car. and Blindside.
Oh yeah.
And so we just went straight into the studio, tracked this thing, immediately got signed, and then immediately went on tour, and then just stayed on tour. And so there was never a lull of like, oh man, maybe I should practice. Maybe I should do this. Maybe I should learn what the hell I'm actually doing. It's not just muscle memory.
Wow.
And so, yeah, it was an interesting time. But the cool thing about it is in doing that, I got to understand myself a lot better. And I had paths start to light up in front of me to get places that I hadn't ventured yet because I just didn't know how to get there. And I kind of thought, I was like, well, it's just not possible. But after like starting back at that low spot of like listening to myself and being like, that's not possible.
Right.
But that's me. So that is possible with the body I have, you know? So
exactly.
like, so I just got to wrap my mind around this. And then after doing that, I was like, oh man, now I want to try, like, I want to mess with some lows. All right. How do I get lower? You know? And then like, okay, now I want to try this. How do I do this? And then even like, with singing and everything, I was talking to Shane and Shane and I both were talking about it. He was like, dude, I really want you singing harmonies live.
Yeah.
And I was like, very intimidated by that. But, he was like, you can do it. Like, let's just work on it. I'm like, okay.
Right.
You're right. I just got to get the mindset about it. So now we're working on that and injecting that in. So all of this, I feel like it was a total godsend leading up to Bloodied and Unbowed because I'm more proud of Bloodied and Unbowed vocally than I have been any other album.
That's awesome.
And to have to look back and see the low spot I was of listening to my records being like, wow, what am I doing there? What's going on? You know, and just like totally feeling broken.
Right.
And then to stand there now and like look at it and be like, I feel better than I ever have.
Right.
It's really cool.
No, I can't really imagine that feeling for sure. But before I ask a couple cliche questions, because you know you have to, I do want to say for sure that you sound awesome. You sound awesome on Bloodied.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's like you never left. So
thank you, man. I appreciate it.
All the work you did definitely pays off in this album for sure. So we'll get to a lot more of that for sure. But until then, let me just go back for a second and just ask a cliche question. So, you know, playing live for the first time in so long, you know, the other night at the beginning of this tour, how did that actually feel to you? Like, I know it's difficult to kind of put that into words to someone. Like, you know, I've been in failed bands before, but I also never, you know, went on hiatus for 6 years and then got back together with a band. So how did it feel to really step on stage in front of people again with O Sleeper and feel that crowd?
Well, so the big kind of moment like that for me was actually a fest that we flew out and played called Audio Feed right before this tour.
Oh, okay.
We did that like a few weeks before the tour.
Yeah.
And that was our first time ever playing these new songs that are much more dynamic than our other stuff and all this. That like it was really cool. Like it was getting up there and getting up there with confidence instead of I didn't really have a lot of nerves on that show. Now, granted, it was a fly-in show, so we didn't have like any gear. We didn't have any lights to set up, anything like that. We didn't have anything like that. So you could really show up and just be a musician. And I think that helped me just stay in the headspace of like, hey, we're prepared. We worked for this. Like we're confident going into it. And when we played, I remember just feeling like I was just feeling so proud.
Right.
And and looking around and seeing the guys and everything and seeing everyone just crushing it. And that after that show, I was just like, God, I can't wait for tour. Like it can't come soon enough. And then if I'm being totally honest,
sure.
Last night we named that we were talking about it in the van and we were like, okay, so out of all the shows we've played, how are we rating this show? And it was like, and I was like, I think that was like the second worst show that we've ever played. And like we never have to stop a set ever. Yeah. And like literally the amount of times we have in the I don't know, I think we've got to be at like, I know we're way past 1,000 shows that we've played.
For sure.
Probably around 2 by now.
Impressive.
Like we've only had to stop the set like 3 times, and last night was one of them, and we had to stop it twice.
Oh wow.
And it was just all this new gear we were using. Right. It was just not like, and the momentum that you have, like when you're warming up backstage and when you're getting ready, and you're mentally prepping to like be in a certain spot in a certain headspace going on, and you're stretching, you're doing your warm-ups and all that stuff like that, and it's just kind of conjure this momentum that you bring onto stage, and then when the first song comes in, like everyone just starts plowing, you know? Yeah. And when you just like you're ready and the first hit comes on and nothing happens, it just like is so deflating. It's just like, man. Done. And then you're like, wait, what happened? And then you don't feel cool. You don't like having all your confidence goes out the window. You're scrambling around, you know. You're asking them, can you turn the lights on? I can't see anything. Right. And then you have to walk up to the mic and be like, hey, so that was crazy. How y'all doing? And then you're like, all right, here we go. And you pull it back up and you start again, and it still doesn't work. Oh, like, no. Oh my God. At that point, you're just like, okay, I need to remember before I freak out that at some point tonight, I will be off stage and the show will be over. Right. And that's great. but afterwards, we got so much great feedback. Good. And there was even like some industry people there who were saying great things and everything. And they were like, you know, everyone, you know, has gear problems and stuff like that. You know, it's no big deal. Y'all bounce back. And I was like, man, that's incredible that you saw it that way. Yeah. In my mind, it seems impossible to have seen it that way, but right. You know, you're always your toughest critic. So. Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. So the crowd was very forgiving. I mean, I would assume that anyone that knows you also knows that even though you played some shows before this, that on the first big tour after a hiatus like that, there's probably bound to be some issues somewhere.
Oh yeah, and like all new stuff and everything like that. Like it's just there's so many moving parts, but we're very meticulous and critical of ourselves, and we've already fine-tooth combed everything that happened last night, and forward and backwards, and you know, we've just gone through the whole thing. So it's just like, all right, there's no way this can happen again. Right. So if it happens again, it's because the venue's power went out or something like that. But it won't be us.
I will definitely have to hold that to you when I see you live in a week or so. So.
Oh man, in a week or so, we'll be in the groove.
Yeah, there we go. See, I know. No worries whatsoever. No worries whatsoever. So you mentioned, you know, obviously having the new gear for playing live, but I think one of the interesting things, something that I would love to know, is that obviously, the Titan came out in 2013. That was the last EP you released, but the last full length was in 2011. That was Children of Fire. What was the big difference gear wise, or anything working with the studio, whoever you were working with on this? What was the big difference between recording a full length album in 2011 compared to 2018, 2019?
Man, I can. That's a great question. Gear wise for Shane, or for our producer Andreas.
Andreas, yeah.
For me personally, musically and songwriting wise, and basic and just composition.
Mm-hmm.
The big difference was that the longest we've ever spent writing an album was I think we wrote When I Am God off and on for like a year and a half.
Okay.
And then I think Son of the Morning was written in like 2 months.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and then Children of Fire I think was around like 5 or 6 months.
Okay.
Because we were touring full time. We didn't have time to write or jam or anything like that.
I see.
And then Titan EP, I'm trying to think. Titan EP was a number of months as well. Bloodied, Unbowed was 4 years of writing. And that is like we went through so many songs that this like some of those so many of those songs started out as completely different things. And we even got so far as to like demoing almost all of them and sitting on them and listening to them for like a year. And then being like, hey, I hate this chorus. Like, it doesn't hold up. Like, we got to rewrite this. And if we write this chorus, we got to rewrite the bridge. And then by the time, then Shane's like, all right, well, we're writing the bridge and I want to put this riff in there instead. And then it turns into a completely different song.
Ah, gotcha.
And so there was so much writing, rewriting, scrapping, fine tuning, this, that, and the other, to when we finally went into the studio. Like, these songs had stood the test of time with us being so critical.
Yeah.
And so going in with all that confidence, rather than Son of the Morning and Children of Fire and Titan EP, I think Andreas, our producer, held a little bigger role in helping us kind of glue everything together and piece it all, take all the pieces and help us put these songs together.
Right.
And he would say the exact same thing. Bloodied, Unbowed, we brought pretty much finished. And we're just like, hey, we also had a lot of it tracked already.
Oh,
we tracked a lot from the house.
Yeah.
And he really engineered it. He definitely produced and worked on songwriting on a couple of the tracks. But that was like the big difference that I noticed going in. It was just, all of us had a very vivid idea of what these songs were going to sound like coming out.
Okay.
Versus the other albums that we've done.
Was there any type of maybe like a confidence issue as well with them taking that long, not knowing if you could, hit the highs that you hit with previous albums? Yeah.
Well, that was like, this is a totally true story. When we flew up to over to Virginia to record, we booked it all out and everything like that. And when it got time to record vocals, I started, I got in the booth and we started working on stuff, and it sounded bad. Like it wasn't bad, but it wasn't as good as it needed to be.
Right.
And even the guys, they were just like, man, like maybe you need to just take a day off and try it tomorrow. And I was like, man, no, it just doesn't feel right. And it was a very deflating and hard time for me.
Right.
And what we ended up doing was just like giving up on recording vocals while we were there. And it was like we were just running out of time, and I was like, I'm sorry, it's just when I'm on, and when I'm off, I'm way off. And so I had to fly back home, being the only one of the band who didn't track their parts.
Oh man.
And I was just feeling so defeated. And so when I got home, I was like, all right, this is boot camp. Every single day I'm working on this
Right.
every single day. I'm going to do this every single day. I'm going to do this. And I basically ended up tracking everything with Shane.
Mhm.
And like once I finally got back to feeling confident and everything like that, and I was like, all right, I think I'm back.
Nice.
I tracked everything at Shane's house, and we sent it to Andreas, and he dropped it in the mix.
Ah, okay. Wow.
Yeah, in
Wow.
Shane's closet. And
Yeah.
but for some reason it worked, you know, and it wasn't rushed, and I could be comfortable, and Shane and I had a great time doing it. And I think, you know, whatever it was and all of that,
Mhm.
I like I said, me personally looking at it, I'm like, I think that's my best stuff.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Like, I know we went off on a couple tangents talking about, you know, everything that was happening, but Bloodied, Unbowed might be my favorite Oh Sleeper album.
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah, and I've been a fan since the beginning. So
Oh, that's so good to hear, man.
yeah, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait to hear it. I know, and you know, it's a little I've mentioned cliche a little bit because I think, especially with, you know, a lot of people knowing your background, Oh Sleeper's background, you know, I'm sure a lot of these questions have been asked by, you know, other outlets and everything, but you've got to feel really great. I highly doubt you feel terrible about it, that so many people are talking already about this being album of the year. I haven't heard a single person say something bad about Bloodied, Unbowed. So that must, I mean, all this work you put into everything must make you feel just ecstatic.
Oh, absolutely, man. It like all of us, it's just been a really, I don't know, a very rewarding experience just to read the feedback.
Yeah.
You know, like with songs that to put it in perspective, we recorded this like a year and a half ago. So we've had these songs recorded for a year and a half, listening to them, you know, and you just second guess yourself when you're your own echo chamber. Like,
absolutely.
At first you're like, yeah, this is awesome. And then you're only listening to yourself. And so you're like, yeah, this is the best. And then as soon as you're like, I don't know if I like that, then that's the only thing you can hear in it. And then you're like, I don't think this is good at all.
Right.
Maybe we need to scrap it.
Wow.
Then to finally get it released, and I know it's the same with Andreas. Like we've all been talking about it. Everyone in the band has just been loving, like, it's been a little therapeutic to go through and just read and just see everyone saying things like it's their favorite Oh Sleeper album. I've heard that a bunch of times.
That's
and
great.
It's so cool because any comment on the art that you create, any positive encouragement or support is so greatly appreciated.
Right.
On the selfish side of an artist, you always hope that your latest efforts are your best.
Right.
And so often, especially when you've been around as long as we have, it's like you get people who come to the show and like, oh my God, you're my favorite band. Oh, like, so stoked. Like, oh man, the best song you ever wrote was Vices Like Vipers. It's the best. And I'm like, man, thanks.
Right.
That was written when I was 20,
right?
Like, you know, like 34 now, you know, like I'm still trying too. I've been trying this whole time to beat it, and it just hasn't happened in your book. Okay.
Oh man.
But and they don't mean it that way at all. And it's and it also has to do with time and place and what it means to them and all that stuff like that.
Exactly.
But still, like, this is the first time that we've heard so many people say that this is their favorite one. So like already.
Right.
And that is just like, that's like the kind of motivation that gets us kind of grinning at each other. Is like, dude, let's write some new songs. Let's start working on the next album.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I know everyone's very happy to hear that. But also, so let me congratulate you on the album, and then also for being the very first band to ever get positive feedback on the internet. Well done.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. It is an honor.
Yeah, it's got to be. In 2019, I don't think I've ever heard anything positive for at least 6 years. So, well done. Uh,
All the good music was made 6 years ago. Everything else sucks.
yep, that's it. They stopped making music at that point. It's all crap now. So yes,
Uh-huh.
I gotta put that out there. But let's go back a little bit. Let's go back a little bit further. So once again, a little cliche, but I think people have read, how you guys were feeling at the end of that Warped Tour in 2013. I guess the question would be, when did you really know that you guys were on almost a permanent hiatus?
Yeah, so I remember the exact moment. Pretty much that conversation on the way back from the last day of the Warped Tour.
Mm-hmm.
We're all just sitting around, and I pretty much pushed the band into, like, I really pushed convincing everybody that it was time for us to, like, put the band into, like, on the back burner and focus on what the next steps in life were going to be. Like, just feeling super jaded,
yeah,
and a little defeated, and just didn't really know. Just the fire was not there,
right?
And that's not the way to be taking the stage or talking to fans or anything like that. Like, you need to be able to appreciate them because they appreciate you,
for sure.
And Shane had this amazing opportunity with Wovenwar,
right?
And I kind of saw that as like an out. And also, he really wanted. He'd been talking to me about wanting, like, having dreams of being lead singer and everything, and so it just seemed to match up. Plus, it was such an amazing opportunity, and he's been friends with those guys forever.
Oh, for sure.
And it was like, you have to take that. Like, as your best friend, I'd be a dick to say not to,
right?
And that would be selfish of me. But then, at the same hand, it also backed up everything that I was kind of stirring in my heart. That I was like, I just don't need to be here. And so I just took that as the cue, like, let's just put everything on the back burner. And he's like, well, I mean, they want to tour time and write these albums. Like, when are we gonna have time? I was like, we'll figure it out. It'll always be there. And he was like, okay. And they took off. Years passed. I started getting the itch again. Started talking to Zach. Zach started getting the itch again. We all started uploading song ideas to the Dropbox and everything, and Zach sending in these sick drum beats, and I'm like, oh man, these are dope.
Yeah.
And I'm sending in, like, anything and everything I can to get motivation going. And Shane starts sending a couple riffs, and then we actually, this is interesting. We actually, for a moment, we're kicking around the idea of having, since Shane was so wrapped up with writing with Wovenwar, he was talking to me. He's like, dude, I don't have time to write all this stuff. And, like, if someone else could write, that would help out so much. And I was like, all right, well, let's bring somebody else in. Mm-hmm. And so we talked to a few different people from other bands about coming in and writing with us.
Oh, wow.
And we're actually kind of on board with somebody, and we're looking at booking studio time with another producer as well.
Oh, okay.
And that would have been something totally different. We were doing everything totally different.
Right.
And then there was, like, kind of delays in communication. And finally I got Shane on the phone, and I think he had just gotten back from Europe or something like that. And he was like, look, man, I'm just not okay with bringing in, like, an outside writer. Like, that's not a sleeper. That's not us.
Right.
It's just, this is my baby as much as it's your baby. I don't want to hand that over to somebody else. And I was like, well, what are we supposed to do?
Right.
And he was like, man, I just thought the band was over.
Okay.
And he was like, I don't see how it's not. And at that was the moment for me. And I've mentioned this a couple times in interviews, but that was the moment for me. Like, I literally physically collapsed on the ground, and just, like, that was the moment I realized that I had pretty much just steered us into an iceberg.
Oh, boom. Okay.
And that's when it rushed over me that my favorite part, because all this time gone trying to chase these other things I thought was going to make me happy, made me realize how special of a thing I had with O Sleeper,
Right.
and with all the people involved and all the fans and everything like that. And just like, it was so vivid that I needed to get back there. And then when he said that, it was like, and you won't ever have it again. And you won't ever have that with Shane again. Y'all won't be able to write again. You won't ever have that with Zach again.
Right.
It's over. All those memories that are flooding through your mind, it's over. Don't just give up.
Wow.
And that was suffocating. And it made all the things that I was doing,
Mm-hmm.
like the job that I'd gotten, the house that I bought,
right,
everything, just be like, none of this is worth it.
Oh, wow.
None of this is worth it.
Wow.
And not my wife though. I'm very happy I've gotten married. My wife though. that was the good move that I did.
Good to throw that in there. Yeah, for sure.
But all of the material
things
that were going on just paled in comparison, and I was just sick.
Right.
And that was the moment where I was like, oh my God, what have I done?
Wow. What amazing clarity that is, though, and what a perspective. Like, I think a lot of people would actually love to have an experience like that to understand what was that important in their life. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, it was. I've never experienced something like that, a feeling like that. Like, it basically gave me a glimpse at the void that would be left if I gave up on, if O Sleeper was truly given up on.
Right.
And it terrified me. I didn't realize how big of a part of me it is.
Right. Yeah, I couldn't imagine, having a different writer in there. I couldn't imagine not having Shane in O Sleeper, because you hear you hear the passion that you guys have in your music. So that would be a completely different dynamic. So obviously at the time when you guys were feeling jaded and you were like, okay, Woven War is kind of an excuse to, put this on the back burner and we'll see where things go. When you end up talking to Shane again and, he kind of dropped that bomb on you, was there any, besides sorrow, was there any animosity towards Shane in the way, and not as a physical thing, but in the way of when you guys were writing originally, did you ever feel like, why does he feel like he wants or has to be a lead singer? Like, were you in control of everything and he felt he had to get away to be in quote unquote in charge of a different band?
No, I don't think it was that at all.
Okay.
I think that just a lot of the people that he looks up to musically are like his favorite musicians are Brad Paisley and John Mayer. and so like he wants to be a singer-songwriter. Like that's like it's his dream, and he has this opportunity. And I know that like he and Nick from As Lay Dying Woven War, they used to be in a band in Fort Worth together called Evelyn, and they were like that was like his first, one of his first bands ever. And so they're like brothers to the bone, from early years. And then like in the history of O Sleeper, like once we kind of learned what the industry was and how it's just having the right management team, the right agency, like having those right people means you get everything you want. Like, and they're talking about starting. So this is like one of his best friends talking about starting this band. They want him to be the singer of, and they want him to write the lyrics too, so he gets a chance to tell his, like, totally his story, instead of O Sleeper is a lot of my story with his sprinkled in, and more and more it started out pretty much like a lot of my story, and then as we've gone on as a band, we discovered writing together and how we could, and how like that honest dynamic and contrasting opinions and views that we have could really make some special stuff, and powerful things that have moved both of us and helped both of us grow as people. Like, still this would be a platform where he could really just be completely untethered, because we've always been like, there's certain things you can say and you can't say on an No Sleeper album now, because we've kind of built up a story and an expectation and all this stuff like that.
Right.
But here was a blank canvas, and then they're like, yeah, we've got so and so managing us and so booking us and this and that, and Metal Blade wants to sign us and they want to do this, and this is the budget. And he's like, oh my God, this is a dream come true.
Right.
And he was very hesitant. Like, he was very hesitant. He was like, I don't know. I mean, what's No Sleeper going to do? And just, like I said, on all accounts, in my mind, from a friend standpoint, from just knowing him as a brother and what he wants, and like putting myself in that situation, like, to like put a foot down and like not allow him to even try,
right,
or try to make him feel guilty. Not allow him is not the right thing.
Well,
to say.
right.
It's his choice, but to try to make him feel guilty about doing that, when I know it lines up with so many things that was a dream for him,
right,
would have just been that'd been the opposite of being a friend.
For sure. No, absolutely. So then when you went and you did Vile Ones, did you get a little bit of that cathartic experience as well?
How so?
So the way that Shane was able to go off and kind of be in control and do something different from No Sleeper, where he had kind of a blank canvas, was that kind of the way you felt when you went to do Vile Ones?
No, Vile Ones fell in line in the same kind of excitement as another project I had a while ago called Kiltrox and the Motherships.
Oh, sure. Okay.
And the excitement there was that with No Sleeper and the narratives that I've created in it over the years, and just kind of the style, and just, there's a lot of weight to what, and whenever I sit down to write a song for it, or sit down with Shane for us to write a song, or anything like that, like there's a lot of weight on what needs to happen in it. And and especially when I'm following album after album of concept, and this is a continuing concept, and it has to make sense. And I'm very anal about, I like to write things from start to finish, so it kind of reads like a book. And then I've got, it was just, all these little pieces had to fall into place. I really just wanted to write. Like, I was like, I just want to write a song about whatever the hell I want. Like, what if I wanted to write a song about vampire? Like, I'm a huge nerd, so like, I was like, what if I got these crazy musicians together? In Kiltrox, it was Zach Ordway from a band back in the day called Sky Airplane.
Yep. Oh,
and
yeah.
Travis Orban, who's with Darkest Hour now, and he's just phenomenal, Modern Drummer Magazine dude, who are both close friends of mine. I was like, what if we got together and made a band that sounded like an alien takeover, and I could write all these lyrics from the view of an alien overlord and all this stuff, and it just like opened up this other whole area of my mind, and helped me like kind of stretch my creativity, and even recording vocals or something like that, it could be as wild and crazy as I wanted.
Exactly.
And that just seemed really fun to me. It was a fun way to exercise my art.
Right.
And Vile Ones was the same way, except it was more under a little bit more serious, because Randy and Andreas I was a huge Scarlet fan.
Oh yeah.
Growing up, and I've been fans of everything they've done together. And Andreas by now is a brother to me. And when he asked me, whenever we were tracking, I can't remember what it was. He ended up emailing me and just being like, "Hey, Randy and I have been writing some stuff. Randy's been writing some stuff. We're thinking we want to record it, and we both wanted to ask you first to see if you wanted to sing over it." And I was like, "Oh my God!" I'm grinning from ear to ear, like giddy.
Yep.
And I was like, "Yes!" And I was like, "What do y'all want me to write about?" And they're like, "Anything you want." And I was like, "Okay, I'm just gonna dive in. So there's some songs on there that are like really serious. There's some songs that are like political, which I've never written anything like that. There's some songs that are just like straight up like a ghost story. There's, you know, and it was really cool, you know, like it was a fun thing to write, but that was more my motivation on those.
Okay.
Cause I had been a lead singer and in control of the message and everything like that before.
True. Okay. Yeah, that makes complete sense. So let's move on a little bit to the story, you know, the concept on Bloodied, Unbowed. Now, for me, I loved that concept for Titan. I thought that was awesome. I love following the story on that, listening to the music and connecting everything. So on this album, you continue that story, but correct me if I'm wrong on this one. It feels like you're more world building in this album more than focusing on the main character in Titan. Would I be correct on that?
Well, it's interesting. This album starts 30 years in the future from Titan EP.
Okay.
So the character in Titan EP, who was like 18, we'll say, by the end, 18, 19, 20, by the end of it, is now 50.
Oh, okay.
In this one.
Okay.
And he is leading the resistance, right?
Right.
That was established in Titan EP. And that, like, he's basically risen up as the leader of the resistance. Okay. And now he has these two right-hand men that are basically his understudies and everything. And the story follows quickly into the album. The leader from Titan goes away, and the two lieutenants, if you will, are left to kind of figure out what to do.
Right.
And that storyline laid the groundwork for, or that storyline allowed me to do something different with Bloodied and Unbowed than I have with any of their other albums, where all of our other albums and songs and stuff like that are in some way inspired off of things that someone in the band, someone's going through, but aren't very like the storyline, the metaphors I wrote to tell those things aren't very like directly tied. They're just kind of like a loose inspiration.
Yeah.
This one, however,
very tied.
is exactly directly tied.
Yeah.
And it follows, the whole album follows the past 6 years of turbulence in O Sleeper.
Right.
And tells the story of everyone going their separate ways and kind of letting O Sleeper, you know, just drift off and run ashore. And while we try to fill the void with something else.
Right.
And then the realization that we need this and we want this worse than ever. And then getting back together and basically feeling invincible.
Yeah.
And charging on.
Right.
So that in the metaphor from Titan comes over, and these two resistance members kind of they split and they go off on their own adventures and everything.
Right.
And their own like journey before coming to the full realization that they need each other.
Exactly.
And I'm really excited, and I'm working on it tirelessly right now.
Yeah.
But I'm working on a comic book.
Awesome. That's great.
and that is just looking so good.
Yeah.
And I'm that's another big nerd thing. I've always loved comics. It's always been a dream of mine. So I'm writing a comic book series about Bloodied and Unbowed. And it's looking like it's going to be 1 to 2 books per song.
Okay. Wow.
And you're going to see, like, in the metaphor of it, because I've written out, anytime I sit down to write something like this, I'll do this massive just idea blog about it, where I basically write it kind of like a novel.
Oh, sure.
And then I write songs about those chapters.
And
that's kind of the reductive process.
Hmm.
But I'm so excited to do it this way because,
That's
like,
awesome.
for people who want to peek inside my mind whenever I'm like, writing these, like, it'll show you exactly what I was seeing in the metaphors. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. Exactly. No, I'm extremely excited about that because I too am a nerd. And I think a lot
All
of people
right.
listening to Scene Daddy, yeah, a lot of people are going to be really excited to hear that. So, one of the great things also about O Sleeper is your artwork. And the artwork is extremely cool for Bloodied Unbowed. For the comic book, are you looking for that kind of illustration or have you found a different style that you're looking to go with?
It is gonna be somewhat like photorealistic.
Okay.
The artist that I found to do the comic book is just this phenomenal guy from Indonesia, actually.
Mhm.
And I haven't seen anything done in this style. It's not traditional comic book look.
Yeah.
But I think it'll be really cool and gritty and gripping this way. The album art was actually one of our we met through the band and have just become family with this guy, Gabe Tennyson.
Mhm.
Um, he and his brother Josh Tennyson work at or they own and run Transformation Gallery Tattoo
Ah,
in Springfield, Missouri.
okay.
And just every time we go through, we always sit down. And we're just kindred spirits. And he is this phenomenal painter. And I actually approached him about doing the album cover. And then his brother, Josh, is a phenomenal graphic designer. And I approached him about doing the album layout.
Yeah.
And so Gabe and I sat down and I told him like my ideas for it and everything and what it meant and what I had an idea, like how I saw it turning out. And that painting is a real painting. He painted that,
Oh.
and it's 4 foot by 4 foot.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he's actually working on a little featurette, putting it together, like talking about the process of painting it, what it
that's
means
great.
to him,
Yeah.
and he's got a big time lapse video of doing it that we're gonna post pretty soon from the Facebook.
Oh, that's going to be awesome. A lot of
Yeah,
people will enjoy that. Yeah.
yeah,
Because that is some really spectacular artwork.
yeah. They are. I agree, man. And like I said, the idea I had a hand in, but that was the execution was all them, and they really knocked it out of the park.
Bringing the scorpion in again
Yes,
makes a lot of sense and having it kind of crawl away. Like, it just works on a lot of different levels for sure.
right, exactly. And you've got this dead head, like head of, it's vague where they're from, but
Mhm.
you've got this dead head, like this bloodied head, and then but the resistance is unbowed
Right.
and living on.
Right. Exactly.
But yeah, man, I'm so happy with how it turned out.
And you really deserve it, man. You really do. All right, Micah. I love talking about that. And we're going to have you on again so we can just talk nerd stuff the entire time. For sure. Yes.
Please. It'd be great to get
Oh,
it'd be great to do a podcast we'll get Shane in it and Zach in it, and we can just nerd out together.
yeah. I am all about that, honestly. I am. We'll definitely do that. But until then, obviously, we've talked about it already. Bloodied Unbowed. I'm almost positive it's my favorite O Sleeper album. And like I said,
Awesome.
I've been a fan since the beginning. I can't wait to see you guys live. It's in an intimate setting. It's going to be awesome. Like you said, you'll have all the kinks worked out by the time that happens as well. But until then, we'll have links in the description, to follow you guys on social media so everyone can take a listen to Bloodied Unbowed. But until that time, what's the best way to support you and O Sleeper?
Oh man, best way to support us right now would be to come see us at a show. Say what's up at the merch table, grab some shirts, just let us know what you think about the album.
Yeah.
Follow us on the social stuff. That's the crazy thing is these days, all those numbers mean everything to getting more tours. And a lot of times people are like, why don't you come up here? Why don't you come up here? It's like, well, we got to get our numbers up.
Yeah.
We'll get the offer. So stream us on Spotify a billion times, just on repeat.
Yep.
Get those numbers up. Help us get those numbers up. Spread the word, and just share your experience with the album with other people, and hopefully get them into it.
Sounds good, man. Well, once again, this was an absolute pleasure for me. I've been wanting to do this for years. I never thought I was actually going to be able to do this. And then all of a sudden, you guys are back with probably,
Awesome.
probably album of the year. So once again, man, thank you for everything you do. And thank you for doing this show. That was awesome.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
You've been listening to Scene Daddy Interviews.
Thank you all for listening to Scene Daddy Interviews. Make sure you support the artists we featured by checking out the summary of the episode. Also, for all your scene news, reviews, and memes, make sure to follow Scene Daddy and Ian Hates on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and don't forget to subscribe and rate Scene Daddy Interviews on your favorite podcast listening app for more great artist interviews in the future. Stay seen.